Hi folks, over the last few years, laser range-finding binoculars have become prolific. There's about 10 or 12 different companies that make them. I think it's very important, huge piece of gear for serious hunters because it consolidates two necessary pieces of gear into one. Consolidation means less stuff to carry. It's simpler. You don't have to switch back and forth between your binocular or your rangefinder. Meanwhile, that animal could move. So I'm gonna test 6 different laser range-finding binoculars here, running the gambit in price ranges between this Bushnell Fusion X that's $579 and the highest in the Swarovski EL range at $3,500. There's some in between, including Leica Geovid. There's a Miopta Mia Pro, a Leupold, what's that, BX4 range, and a Revic. I think the Revic's about, what, $2,700. Anyway, I test these like I do binoculars for durability, for optical clarity, little features, ergonomic features. Then I test the laser rangefinder within, and man, these things have gotten complicated just in the last year or so. Several of them now connect to your iPhone via Bluetooth to run on ballistic apps. It's just incredible, and a lot of times that's the difference. Now, with some of those features, they get more complicated. But anyway, I'm gonna break this down as best I know how, meaning I think it's honest. I took the last five and a half months testing these things over the hunting season. So if these things look beat up, that's because they are. But I did my best to bring you honest assessments so you know which one you should buy, because it's a huge investment. If the lower priced ones are worth it. What's coming up is the conclusion mixed in with, you can see some of my testing. I tested them in the rain in different conditions. All of these things are amazing. But I urge you to watch if you have any interest in buying a laser range finding binocular. I'm Jeff Johnston for Bull Shooters. Stay tuned. Hi folks. So after months of testing these range finding binoculars, I think I can come to a few conclusions. I'm gonna rank these things according to JJ's opinion. So this is 6 different pairs of binoculars. There's the Geovid Pro, Leupolds, and I may misname some of these because I'm going through them fast. Leupolds BX4 range HD 10x42. Here's Miopta's Miopta Optica 10x42. Swarovski's EL range 8x32. Acura's Revic BLR 10B, and then Bushnell's Fusion X 10x42. It's not apples to apples here either. This was the best I could do by getting several different optics in, and I'm just kind of testing conceptually across the board, and I wanted to see some differences. Do you really gain much with a 42 millimeter versus the 32 on some of them? I'm leaving out several binoculars. The Zeiss Victory is a biggie. I've used it, it's a wonderful binocular. And there are a few other brands that I have left out, so take that with a grain of salt. Steiner also makes a wonderful range-finding binocular, which I love and have used. And there are a few more lesser brands, but these are the 6 that I'm gonna go through. So I brought notes because I've been testing these for taking measurements, all the features. I'm gonna try to go through these and give you some of the highlights, some of the pros and some of the negatives on each. Then I'll rank as far as overall best, what I think top to bottom, and then I'll try to rank somehow based on value or for the money. Right now they're in no particular order, but as I go through this, I'll put them in order. So number 1 in randomly, one of my favorite go-to binocular brands for the money, for value, is Miopta. They're a Czech Republic firm. They really compare to Swaro and Zeiss in most metrics. Just wonderful binoculars, and for the money, their scopes and binoculars are some of the best. This is their Optica LR, it's called the Mio Pro. Some of its highlights are, I love the ergonomics and the buttons on this thing. You can feel those left and right hand, which is very important. I hate when you have a unit with the buttons on the same hand because you can't really tell when you're under pressure which one you're pushing. These either left or right hand. This binocular's downside and its biggest detractor is it's bulky. It's a chunk. It's not the heaviest binocular weight, but it's one of them. It's 2 pounds. Let's see. let's see, it's right at 2 pounds, 1 ounce. So let's call it 2 pounds. You know, they get heavier, but it's a chunk. And also, before I get into all of these, know that whatever the company says, maybe they say that their rangefinder goes to 2,000 yards. It's very rare that you actually get that. And you know, some days I can go out here and I'd look and I could get 1,700 yards. The next day, maybe the farthest I could get was 1,500. Then the next day, maybe I could get 2,200 yards. But the number that the company gives is usually its ideal conditions. So generally these things, you know, perform less in the real world than the company says. Oh, it was, okay, the trees, it was bouncing off the water. But they're not really fudging. I'm sure that they got those in a more of a controlled conditions. This thing, 2,000 yards. I think I got 1,990 something at the very end. So let's call it 2,000 yards. I like this because its modes are very simple. You have a fire button, good LED red display. Then it has a mode button. The modes are simple. Most important thing, it has, you know, angle ranging. So if you're shooting uphill or downhill, or if you're a bow hunter, it compensates for the angle. So you know that. All around, really solid laser range-finding binocular, and also it's made more solid because of the price. I found this on Amazon for $17.12 right now. This is May of 2024, but they retail generally for around 1,900 bucks. Comes with everything you need, as do all of these binoculars: eye cups, or eye protection cups, case, neck strap, that sort of thing. I did notice that when I dropped these once, I broke that, I think that's magnesium. I broke one of the binocular straps, so that took a little ding there. I mean, that could happen to any of them, but it did happen to this one. But its strengths, love the controls, straightforward binocular, good value price. And I know 1,800 sounds expensive, but that's what most of these are these days. Its downside, just pretty bulky. So Meopta is going to be somewhere in the middle. I'll line them up after a while. Next up, let's go with the, let's see, Leica. Actually, I said Leica, it's Leica. I got smacked in the face once at SHOT Show by one of the managers. Pow! These are some of the most advanced binoculars ever made, and especially these are several years old now. And I took these to British Columbia, even at 32 millimeter objectives. I didn't feel handicapped. They're lighter weight for what they are. Let's see, they're 1 pound 13 ounces, which is, I think, right there near the lightest. They're second lightest. If I had to do this again, I would get the 42 millimeters because there's a lot of wasted space around the edge there, and they're not that much lighter than the 42 millimeters. So I would go ahead and you're just not saving that much in this particular brand. I would go ahead and get the 10 by 42s. But ballistically, these are the second best. You need to pay though for the best functions, the really advanced functions of applied ballistics. So beware if you are a shooter that wants to shoot over, I think, 800 yards, and you want, you know, the detailed stuff like the Borealis effect. What's that? Corollas effect. You have to pay for those on applied ballistics, but if you do, it would probably be worth it. This is just amazing. This stuff was, you know, out of fantasy movies or war novels just a few years ago. But when you range something, it shows on your map, on an app, where that range or where that target is. You know, for long range shooting, a lot of times I've seen guys, idiots, that shot at something so far away that they didn't even know how to get to that animal to start looking for it. Or, you know, more importantly though, you can see, you know, where that elk is. Say if he's 800 yards away, you could see where he is to see if you can get closer on the map. Really neat function. You know, you can triangulate 2 or 3 people, see where they are. Cool technology that now a couple of these have. It's about 2,000 yards as well for max range. I think I got over that a couple of times. All right, here's the Leica. I love the size. This was the second most expensive unit at $3,000, and I love it. If, you know, would I rather have this one than probably the Meopta? Yes, because it has more functions and because it's bigger, but almost twice as expensive, closer to a third more expensive at $3,000. It's gonna fall in the upper echelon, probably ahead of the Meopta, somewhere like that. Next up, Leupold. God, I love Leupold. Anytime somebody asks me what scope to get, tell them a Leupold. VX3, VX6, you can't go wrong. I think they're the best in the world. It's scopes. Binoculars though, frankly, have been a little bit lacking. I just don't think they've caught up to some of them. Mainly, you know, the Leupold scopes are made in America. A lot of their optics are made elsewhere. Pacific Rim, I think they've got some Japanese stuff. This one is made in China mainly because it's electro-optics, and most of these electronics are made in China. Leupold's rangefinders, just the range-finding technology, the lasers, are top-notch, as good as anything, if not better than anything out there, as proven with its new RX 5000 rangefinder. Unbelievable. So just as a rangefinder, these binoculars are awesome. Two big controls like the Meopta. You can easily, you know, grip and spot one's fire, one's mode. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It ranges fast, it's accurate, it's far. It's not as accurate as putting your dope in an actual app on some of these others that have more sensors in them, like pressure. And by the way, the Leica, you know, this has pressure, temperature, all these gauges built in to help you get real-time in the field dope. This does not, but the TBR is pretty good. You can get a list of ballistics and enter which one is closest to your rifle, and it'll get you darn close. You need to verify. I wouldn't be taking an 800-yard shot just by saying, oh, I need to hold over, you know, 12 mils or whatever, but it will get you close. Love the controls. The eye cups just feel good on these. Diopter, a little tight, but that's okay. Focus wheel's okay. Everything's kind of okay, except, you know, the rangefinder within is real good. The downside to this binocular, it is heavy. It's a beast. It's an anchor. It's huge. It's fat. It's obese. This thing weighs, it's the heaviest one. The BX4 Range HD, let's see, it weighs 2 pounds, 6 ounces, 0.4, so 2.6, well over 2 pounds. It's just a chunk. It's got some good things though. Very fast readout, great display, great battery life. Like the controls, it's got a tripod mount, as did the Meopta had a tripod mount, I forgot to mention. But it's also priced accordingly. It's the, second cheapest one at $1,600. And even though when I factor that in, I'd rather have the Meopta, frankly. Sorry, Leupold. So I'm gonna put that under Meopta. Next, we've got let's go with the Revic. This is an amazing little binocular. Revic, of course, is a company owned by Gunworks. Gunworks is right on the cutting edge. These guys are dialed in. Rather than go to a third party like Applied Ballistics, they made their own, and I think it's the best technology in the world. It factors everything. It's ridiculous if you're a nerd about it. Probably the best of all these, you can enter your wind dope, either do a vector like for a really precise wind call, or you can do general wind calls, and then it'll show it on the screen here. This also connects to an app where you can download, utilize Revic's, Gunworks, knowledge and history of developing this stuff. You can enter everything for your rifle, have many different profiles in there for bullets. It's exact. This is about the closest thing where if you had to take one shot at something, which I would never do that anyway, I'd want to dope something out for sure, but this is the closest thing. This is the best thing going right now that you could, one shot kills at silly long range, just because everything is in there. And if you practice with your rifle, practice with your load, and practice with these and get a system going, it's ridiculously accurate once you practice with them and compare and make notes and tweak some of your data. This you have to jump in the weeds with. If you're just a hunter wanting to get a range and maybe a little bit of holdover information or whatever, probably not for you. So of all these binoculars, I think it's top notch in pure ballistics. I also think it is the worst, probably second worst. It's really close. It's the worst optically. Now this is strange because I've seen some reviews and I've seen people talk about these things and everybody raves about the optics. Man, I don't know. I've looked through a lot of binoculars and I've looked through them side by side comparing them. This just has a different coating and a weird kind of bluish glow. It's just, I don't care what anybody says, to my eyes, and I believe would be to your eyes, it's just not as crisp as some of these just top-end binoculars. So I mean, and it's noticeable. The rest of these are awful darn close. To me, the Revic optically was noticeably worse. Doesn't mean it's bad compared to optics, you know, 30 years ago or what I started out with using. They're much better than that. But compared to these top-notch high-end binoculars, I think optically it's not there. Ballistically, it's the top. So that's just a weird, you know, dynamic there. So this is one of those that you kind of have to pick. If you're more of a hunter who just wants a binocular that's, you know, best of clarity and get a range to, probably not my first choice. This one's also is not cheap, all that technology. What this Revic is $2,700. It's also not light. It's compact, and then it's one of the shortest, but it's a chunk. It's not real heavy. It's middle of the road as far as weight. It's 2 pounds even, so exact same as the Meopta. It's app-based, app heavy. It had the longest range that I had. I got some ranges over 2,800 yards. This is complicated, takes time to learn. So for target shooters, probably my first choice. For all around or hunters, not my first choice. But because it's so strong there, I'm gonna put it, and it's 2,700 bucks. I'm gonna put it above the Meopta, below the Leica for all around. Voila. Here's the Bushnell, and obviously it's a different class. It's just a larger binoculars than the rest. These Bushnells have been the surprise of the test though so far. And Murphy's Law. Bushnell's out of batteries. I'll put that one last and I'll swap one of the batteries. The cheapest one of the bunch, and you would expect that. Bushnell is just not in this line of their optics is not in the same category as like a Swarovski or like some of these others, so it's not really even a fair comparison. I was very skeptical when I got these. I'm like, you know, let's have a budget one unit. My God, I'm completely surprised. I just thought in every way that they would be worse. But they're not. First of all, they didn't try to copy what all of these others are doing, which are red LEDs. They're pretty similar what all these did. Bushnell had its own engineers kind of go a different route. It is made in China, like the Leupold, but man, great. Here's what they did right. 2 controls on either side, which I like. They should have made them a little bit bigger. Focus wheel, you know, everything's good. I actually love the diopter adjustment because it clicks. You hear that? That's probably my favorite diopter adjustment of the bunch. And why I keep saying why that's important, because so many times I get them set exactly like I want them and I'm hunting, and throughout the course of a hunt, I'll go down and raise up and one eye is completely out of focus. That's because my diopter got moved. These survived all the drop tests. I submerged them. They're waterproof. It's unbelievable. But looking through them, they're just good. I mean, it was hard to tell the difference. Now, the laser rangefinder is probably the worst of the bunch, but that's still to say, let's see, I ranged to 1,500 yards. I think I got a little bit over that. I'm not gonna shoot past there. It was great. Internally though, it had much more than I was expecting. It has a bow or rifle mode. Once you pick your caliber, it'll give you range, adjust for the angle. It has what's called ARC, angle range compensation. It's got one cool function that you can even measure height. You can like range the bottom of a tree or a hill, say a mountain, and then range the top of that mountain, and it will calculate the height of that. The coolest thing about this, it has a dynamic display where all of these others are red LED, which is important because if it's dark, you can't see a black non-illuminated LED, but it has that subtle, it switches to red, and you can see it. It works. I think it's nifty. But here's the deal. This thing right now, I saw it on sale across the board for $579. Again, this is the binocular I didn't really want to like because it's a Bushnell. Now I know some of Bushnell's top end elite line is as good as anything Japanese made. I'm telling you though, if you want, if you're on a budget, want a laser range finding binocular, and you know, you're not embarrassed to say I carry a Bushnell, which is ridiculous that we are that way, but you know, let's face it, some of the optics is about panache. It's sad but true. Not a bad binocular. I was very surprised at these. Good all around binocular. You know, it probably is the lesser unit, although you know, it's about the same weight, even though it's bigger. what was it? It was 2 pounds, 2 ounces, so it's actually lighter than the Leupold. Probably all around, it's probably on the bottom, but I'm gonna factor in for the money later, and you're gonna be surprised to watch that baby come up a little bit, I think. Last but certainly not least, my favorite, I thought the clear, hands down, pretty obvious winner, pretty much all around for everything, was the incredible Swarovski EL range. These are the 8x32s. If I had it to do over again, I'd get the 10x32s, because usually when I'm looking at their binocular, I want magnification. That's the whole point of a binocular. 1 pound, 8 ounces, so exactly 1.5 pounds. That's the lightest by far. They're also the smallest. The Swaro was just incredible. Start out, by far the most compact and lightest. These are the binoculars that I can bow hunt with on my chest all day and hardly even notice they're there. Ergonomically, the best. That focus wheel is just so smooth yet precise. Diopters, eye cups have multiple levels that you can get them to fit with or without glasses, sunglasses. I love the diopters are marked, but they're stiff, but they also have a good, just satisfying feel. Hold on a minute. Yes, this is why I love the diopters. You have to lift them up to move them. I love that, so they can't get knocked out. Huge deal there. The others, this is the standard. All of them should be like that. The controls with the rangefinder, they're the best. Tiny 2 little buttons, 1 on each side, like I said, so you don't get confused. One fire, the other mode. You can also electronically switch it up for the other hand if you're bow hunting or if you're one of those weirdo lefties. Internally, the rangefinder is unbelievable. It was very fast, but it does connect to an app, and it took me a while to find this. You push both these buttons at once for 3 seconds, and this little blue LED light comes on. That means the Bluetooth is on. It can pair with an excellent Swarovski app where you can enter all of the dope. Then it will put that dope in here on your eyepiece, so you can instantly make calculations without having to have your app. Now, another cool thing, tracking feature where, like that, on your app you can range something and it'll show you on a map. Immediately the app will go to a map, I think it's Google Maps, and show you where you ranged. It's unbelievable. It's incredible, that technology. I used this for months before I even knew it had that feature, because the Bluetooth is not hard to find. Ballistically, this thing was second only. Now it's close. The Leica has its own app as well. It was really close ballistically between the Leica and the Swaro. I kind of like the app and the data display of the Swaro better. The only negative on this, it's had 2 negatives. This was the most obvious when you look at something in range and it was a little bit dark. You could see a little red halo right in the center where that readout is. It was a little bit distracting, not a big deal. The second thing is, it has proprietary strap, this strap system where you take those screws out. Come on, Swaro. The proprietary, if you lose one of these or lose your strap, you have to rig up something, and you can't, just put zip ties or something through the static manual loops there. 1 pound, 8 ounce even. That was pretty much, to me, as a hunter, and I would think even a target shooter, let's say as a hunter, head and shoulders above the rest of them. Now, usually in the game of optics, there's a price you pay, and that price is price. These were the best, but they were also the most expensive by 500 bucks. These are $3,500. Are they worth it? Depends. If you want the best, you're a hunter and want the best, yes they are. If you are not a hunter at all and wanted target shooting, I'd probably buy the Revics. But if you were a hunter, wanted the best, and also target shot a lot, yeah, I would buy these. I'm not counting the money, I'm not counting value here, just counting the best as far as terms of features and performance. It'd probably go, for sure, the Swarovski. That's the EL range. It'd go the Leica, Geovid Pro, probably the Revic, the Miopta, the Leupold, and then the Bushnell. When we mix them up for the money, though, it's a little different. It's tough on this one because I'm just in love with the Swarovski. Even for the money, I think it's hands and shoulders above, so I'm still gonna go that one number 1 for the money. I would probably put, because this is so cheap for the money, I would probably put the Bushnell second. I'd probably do Miopta, probably Leica, probably Revic, and probably the Loophole. If I was more of a target shooter, I'd probably switch, you know, this and this, something like that, even because target shooting, you need this, you need this ballistic capability to be like that for the money for target shooters. That's my opinion. Many people would disagree with me, although I don't know, I'm you know, pretty confident in these picks. Don't discount this Bushnell Fusion for a under $600 laser rangefinder unit that also has basic ballistics. The Revic for the true target shooter riflemen who want to nerd out. I'm Jeff Johnston. That's just my view. This is Bull Shooters. Go hunting or shooting, and do it often. Bye-bye.